We never said the word out loud, just lived inside it like a cloud that neither one of us could name, but both of us felt just the same. You text at midnight, mine at 2. The way I'd laugh at everything you do. We built a world with no address, beautiful and mapless, I confess. And everyone around us seemed to know before we'd let ourselves believe it. So they'd smile when we walked in the room, like they could see the shape of something that would bloom. It was almost us, the love that lived just past the edge of words. Almost us, the held breath, the almost kiss, the everything that somehow came to this. We were almost there, on the tip of something real, almost brave enough to say the things we feel. And now I live inside that almost every hour, in the space between us, almost ours. Almost ours. There was a night in late July when you looked at me and I looked at the sky, and neither of us filled the pause, too terrified of all our hidden flaws. I think you leaned an inch toward me, I think I turned away too carefully, and just like that the moment closed, like a flower no one watched. It came and went and froze, and I replay that night in late July. I change the ending every time I try. I stay, I turn, I say the word, I let myself be seen, I let myself be heard. It was almost ours, the love that lived just past the edge of words. Almost ours, the held breath, the almost kiss, the everything that somehow came to this. We were almost there, on the tip of something real, almost brave enough to say the things we feel. And now I live inside that almost every hour, in the space between us, almost ours. Almost is the loneliest word I know. It means you got so close but didn't go. It means you saw the door and felt the light, but stood outside and called it being right. But I would rather live inside the almost than never having close enough to feel, because almost means it happened, almost means it was so real. It was almost ours, and I would choose it almost every time. Almost ours, the most beautiful kind of lost, to love someone and not know what it cost. We were almost there, and almost did enough to know that what we had was close to love. And somewhere in another life it blooms by the hour, perfectly and finally ours. Almost, almost ours, almost ours. Almost ours. The rumors go, the music low. You laughed at something and I don't know. And everything slowed down right there, like time itself had stopped to stare. My glass was full, I didn't drink, too busy standing on the brink of something I couldn't yet name. A feeling with no face, no frame. And the candles threw their shadows wide, and everyone else just fell aside, like the world had quietly agreed that this moment only needed you and me. It was champagne light, the golden hour just before the night, when everything is warm and slightly soft, and nothing yet has had the chance to cost. You were champagne light, effervescent, rising, burning bright. The feeling just before I fell, when everything was almost beautiful. You crossed the room without a thought, like courage was a thing you'd always got. And I pretended I was fine, but my heart wasn't running out of time. We talked about the small, the light, the kind of things that carry weight at night. Your hands, the way you held your glass, like something precious, something built to last. And the whole room leaned into your voice, even silence felt like it had a choice to stay or go. And it stayed the way I should have stayed, instead of being afraid. It was champagne light, that golden hour just before the night, when everything is warm and slightly soft, and nothing yet has had the chance to cost. You were champagne light, effervescent, rising, burning bright. The feeling just before I fell, when everything was almost beautiful. I keep that night like a photograph, hidden where the ordinary can't get in. When the world goes gray and the cold comes back, I go back to where the gold begins. The clink of glass, the hum of strings, the way the evening held its breath for us. I don't need the whole story, just that light, just that light, just that us. It was champagne light, the kind that only comes once in a life, when the world is warm and you are there, and everything is golden in the air. You were champagne light, and I was standing in your glow all night, not knowing it would cost me everything to love a light that beautiful, that fleeting. Champagne light, champagne light, champagne light, champagne light, champagne light, just that light. You're the echo of a heartbeat. I don't play your voicemails anymore, but I know exactly where they are, filed away behind the mundane things like receipts and reminders and old strings. I've rearranged the whole apartment twice, moved the chair, repainted over white, but somehow every room still holds your shape. Like a sound the walls refuse to let escape. They say that love is just a frequency, and maybe that is all it is to me. Something I can feel but cannot hold, a vibration in my chest that won't grow cold. It's the echo of a heartbeat, still repeating in the space where you have been. A love that keeps on living, long after the giving, long after the leaving. I press my hand against the quiet, and I swear I hear you underneath the silence. Some sounds don't die, they just grow deep. You are the echo of a heartbeat. I met someone new in early spring. He laughed the same, wore the same kind of ring. And for a second I forgot myself, reached for you on someone else's shelf. It wasn't fair, not to him, not to me, to love a ghost so publicly. So I said goodnight and walked the long way home, and let myself be lonely and alone. Because maybe some loves aren't meant to heal, maybe some were only meant to feel like proof that something in this life was real. A scar that says I loved and I was filled. It's the echo of a heartbeat, still repeating in the space where you have been. A love that keeps on living, long after the giving, long after the leaving. I press my hand against the quiet, and I swear I hear you underneath the silence. Some sounds don't die, they just grow deep. You are the echo of a heartbeat. Oh, is a heartbeat but a door, opening and closing, opening some more. Mine has learned to open wide again, but it keeps your echo in the way it bends. You taught it how to feel the weight of things, the cost of holding on, the gift of letting ring. So I won't silence what you left in me. I'll let it echo on and endlessly. It's the echo of a heartbeat, and I stop trying to fill the space. You've been a light that keeps on living. It's not grief anymore, it's how I breathe. I press my hand against the quiet, and I smile now when I hear you in the silence. Some sounds don't die, they just go deep. You are the echo, you are the beat, you are the key. Echo, 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 still beating. Still beating. We hung the lights on nothing, just the air. Stretch them between the windows just because they're there. And the whole room changed into something else, like a dream you almost had while still yourself. You put on something old, I poured us tea. We talked about the people we used to be, and I thought I wanna live live inside this light and forget the world outside just for tonight. Because forgetting isn't loss. Sometimes it's the bravest thing you do, to let the fairy lights rewrite the dark and choose the magic, choose the soft, choose you. Fairy lights and forgetting, the most beautiful kind of letting go. Not the grief kind, not the goodbye kind, the kind that lets the magic overflow. Fairy lights and forgetting, the art of being nowhere but right here, trading all the heavy for the luminous and choosing just for now to disappear. Glass caught a little point of light and scattered it like futures left and right. We laughed at something neither will remember by the time the cold comes back in late December. And maybe that's the point, the sweet forgetting, the way a moment lives by not being kept. The firefly exists because it flickers, the dream means more because you almost wept. And I have held too many things too tightly, tried to press forever into every night. But here you taught me how to hold things lightly, to love the flame without demanding light. Fairy lights and forgetting, the most beautiful kind of letting go. Not the grief kind, not the goodbye kind, the kind that lets the magic overflow. And choosing just for now to disappear. There is a kind of love that lives in moments, not built for permanence, not carved in stone. It arrives like fairy lights in winter windows, too delicate to own, too bright to own alone. And I am learning how to be that present, how to let the flickering be enough. Because the most enduring thing about a moment is that you cannot hold it, and that's love. Fairy lights and forgetting, I finally know what all the magic's for. Not to hold, not to keep, not to carry, just to feel, just to be, nothing more. Fairy lights and forgetting, the only thing I want to remember is that one night in the shimmer, myself be lit and let go. Fairy lights and forgetting and light. And light. Yeah. You didn't say a word across the table, just turned your glass and watched the candle fade. And I felt something shift beneath the surface, like tectonic plates that something always made. You weren't performing, weren't arranging, just present in a way that few things are. And I leaned in before I knew I was leaning, the way a tide leans toward a hidden star. It wasn't what you said, you barely spoke. It was the space around you, the way it pulled, like every room recalibrated slowly, just to orbit everything you were. There is gravity in your silence, something pulling before a word begins. A force I couldn't name or place or fight, just felt myself drawn in. Not a storm, not a crash, not a collision, more like the slow inevitable tide. beautifully ever since that night. We walked back through the city after midnight, and you didn't feel the quiet, let it breathe. Most people rush to cover all the silence, but you just let it rest between the leaves. I noticed how you paused at certain windows, looked at ordinary things with careful eyes, like you were always finding something in them. And I wanted to see everything you'd find. It wasn't fireworks, wasn't thunder, wasn't the kind of love that shouts its name. It was quite a deeper, more like wonder, the kind that rearranges how you came. There is gravity in your silence, something pulling before a word begins. A force I couldn't name or place or fight, just felt myself drawn in. Not a storm, not a crash, not a collision, more like the slow, inevitable tide. There is gravity in your silence, and I have been falling beautifully ever since that night. Gravity doesn't ask permission, it doesn't care what you had planned. It finds you at the table, at the window on a midnight street, and takes your hand. And I have stopped pretending I am standing, stop pretending I am still and I am free, because the truest thing I know about this feeling is that you are the gravity in me. I am finally aligned. Oh, gravity still falling, aligned over. Gravity still falling, aligned. The windows fog at 8:30. The kettle hums, the hour grows late. I wear the coat you used to like, walk the same streets, the same cold night. The city decorates itself in light, but every string of gold just makes it worse. Because I swore I'd move on by now, but December always breaks that vow. It's just a season, people say, but seasons have a way of pulling you back to the night the cold first touched my face, and you were standing right in front of that. I still see your eyes in December, reflected in the frost on every window pane. I still hear ends, they turn into the cold that never bends. And every year when the first snow falls, I I still see your eyes, I still feel it all. Found a photo in a drawer. You laughed at scarf the year before. We didn't know that it would be the last December, you and me. I've learned to sleep through January, to skip the songs that made me cry in February. But when the cold comes rolling back, my heart still finds that same old track. And maybe time was never meant to heal. Maybe it just teaches us to carry what we feel, like a lantern in the dark, still warm enough to light the hardest part. I still see your eyes in December, reflected in the frost on every window pane. I still hear your voice in the ember of every fire that burns to keep away the rain. Some loves don't leave when the chapter ends, they turn into the cold that never bends. And every year when the first snow falls, I still see your eyes, I still feel it all. Maybe I don't want to forget, maybe this ache is all I have left to go. Stop growing too fond of letting stay, warming my hands on a fading yesterday. But somewhere past the cold, past the gray, I think I'm starting to believe in May, that love like yours doesn't come to break you down, it comes to show you what you found. I still see your eyes in December, but now they look like something I survived. I still hear your name in the ember, but now it sounds like proof that I was loved and I'm alive. Some loves don't leave, and thank God they don't. They become the warmth inside the cold. And every year when the first snow falls, I still see your eyes, and I'm grateful for it all. December, I still see you. A little longer, just a little. Let go. I let you go on a Tuesday morning, the ordinary kind, no thunder, no warning. The coffee was still warm inside the cup, and I chose the door before I chose to look up. I told myself, this is the right thing now, that letting go was strength. I don't know how I walked away so cleanly, so precise, and left my heart behind to pay the price. But the Tuesday keeps on coming back to me, replaying in the space where it used to be. And I rewrite it every single time. I stay, I turn, I reach, and you are mine. If I held on a little longer, would the story have a different end? If I stayed inside that Tuesday morning, would I still be reaching now, or would I have you then? Just one more breath, just one more minute, just the courage that I couldn't find. Autumn came and rearranged the light the way that seasons do, without a right to change the things we thought were permanent. The gold, the leaf, the warmth already spent. I saw your coat inside a second-hand store, the same one, same cut, hanging near the door. I stood there for a minute, maybe more, remembering the Tuesday I walked out before. And something in that coat, that ordinary thing, broke me open like the first cold day of spring. Because the smallest things hold all the weight of every door we opened, every door too late. And if I held on a little longer, would the story have a different end? If I stayed inside that Tuesday morning, would I still be reaching now, or would I have you then? Just one more breath, just one more minute, just the courage that I couldn't find. If I held on a little longer, would I still be leaving you inside my mind? Maybe the holding was always the hardest part. Not the loving, not the losing, but the start. Practice, built a life on knowing when to go, but you were the one door I should have opened wider, and I was the one who didn't know. If I held on a little longer, just a Tuesday, just a breath, just a word. If I stayed, if I turned, if I told you, would you have stayed? Would we have? Would you have heard? I don't know, I will never, I can't find the version of that morning where I stayed behind. But if I held on a little longer, I think I would have been just fine. A little longer, a little longer, just a little. Let go. A little longer, just a little. Let go. Between the stars, still glowing. Everyone looks up and finds the bright ones, the constellations, the ones with all the names. But I have always been more drawn to the spaces, the dark between the lights, the unnamed frames. That's where I found you, not in the spectacular, not in the blaze of something obvious and bright, but in the quiet pause between two moments, in between the stars in the uncharted night. Because the stars get all the credit, but the dark is what gives them their shape. And you were that, the necessary darkness that made the light in me impossible to mistake. In between the stars, that's where I've been living. In between the stars and the invisible, in the space no map has named, where everything that matters goes unclaimed. In between the stars, that's where I found the only thing that's ours. Not in the blazing, not in the obvious light, but somewhere deep in between the stars existed in the margins and the pauses where the truest things are kept upon the shelf. And I spent a lifetime in the center of every noise, of every obvious place, until you showed me how to find the edges, the in-between, the unilluminated space. And I have never been so found as in the place that made no sound, as in the dark between the bright, as in the space that held no light, held only you. In between the stars, that's where I've been living, in between the stars and the invisible, in the space no map has named, where everything that matters goes unclaimed. In between the stars, that's where I found the only thing desires, not in the blaze and not in the obvious light, but somewhere deep in between the stars in the night. What if the universe is mostly space, and space is not the absence, it's the place where everything that's coming gathers first, before it blazes, before it bursts? What if love is like that, mostly space, the quiet gathering, the unhurried grace? And you and I are not between the stars, we are the space, we are the space, we are the stars. In between the stars, I finally know the name of what we are, not in the obvious, not in the named, but in the space that cannot be explained. We were always meant to be this far from everything that blazes, from everything that shows, because the deepest love in between the stars quietly glows. Between the stars, still I have crossed 1,000 ordinary days, through the gray and through the almost beautiful haze, through the loves that left and loves I let go first, through the quenched and through the still unquenched thirst. And I'd started thinking, maybe this is it, that wonder was a candle almost spent, that the extraordinary only visits youth. And I had aged my way right past the truth. And then the universe leaned down and whispered through the noise and through the years and through the wait, that some things don't arrive on schedule, some things only come when you have learned to wait. Once in a blue eternity, the sky breaks open differently, and something falls through all the space between and lands exactly where it's meant to be. Once in a blue eternity, the stars conspire so carefully that two souls find the same impossible seam and recognize each other like a dream. You walked in wearing nothing but yourself, no borrowed light, no costume on the shelf, and everything I thought I knew about the way that love arrives I had to doubt, because you didn't strike me like a bolt, more like the slow remembering of a note, a melody I've known before I knew, a song I hadn't heard but always knew. And everything that came before made sense now. Every wrong turn, every year that felt too long, every love that wasn't quite the right shape was just the dark before the blue lit song. Once in a blue eternity, the sky breaks open differently, and something falls through all the space between and lands exactly where it's meant to be. Once in a blue eternity, the stars conspire so carefully that two souls find the same impossible seam and recognize each other like a dream. Eternity is patient, I have learned. It does not rush the things that must be earned. It lets the oceans carve the coastline slow. It lets the seeds take years before they grow. And so it let me wander, let me wait, let me arrive a little less than great, then placed you at the crossing of my days and set the whole world burning blue with grace. Once in a blue eternity, and I have lived enough to know it's real, that something falls through all the years between and lands precisely where it's meant to heal. Once in a blue eternity, and I am standing in it finally. Two souls inside the same impossible dream. The blue eternity, and you and me. Blue eternity, finally here, finally up. I knew before I even said hello, this was the kind of thing that couldn't go the way I hoped, the way I planned. But I reached out anyway and took your hand. The room was loud, the night was young, and all the warnings went unsung. I told myself just one more hour, not knowing you'd become my favorite thing to lose. And oh, I should've known better, but knowing better never felt so right. I walked right into the fire with my eyes wide open in the light. You were one beautiful mistake, the kind that leaves a mark you can't erase, a perfect crack across my heart's facade. Too good to regret, too gone to hold on to. I do it all again, every ache, just to feel that one electric shake. Some things were never meant to stay, but God, you were one beautiful mistake. We burned through spring and into June like something living out a tune. Beautiful and slightly wrong, a borrowed key, a borrowed song. You never lied, I never asked. We both just wore the future like a mask, pretending we had more than nights in playlist in the borrowed city lights. And oh, we knew it wasn't forever, but forever wasn't what I needed then. I just needed one real moment, even if it meant I'd break again. were the ones I never should have let myself fall into, and yet I fell. And I am not sorry, not at all, not even a little. You are one beautiful mistake, the kind that rearranges who you are. You cracked me open like the dawn and left me better, left me braver, left me scarred. I'd do it all again. Every single ache, every sleepless night, every breath I couldn't take. Some things were never meant to stay. But you were one beautiful, beautiful mistake. Beautiful, beautiful, one beautiful mistake. It was the kind of morning made of glass, where everything was flawless while it lasted. The light came in like something newly born, too beautiful to touch without being torn. You slept beside me still as winter air. I watched you breathe and tried so hard not to stare, afraid that if I moved or made a sound, the whole perfection would come crashing down. There are moments made of something so precise that holding them too hard will crack the ice. So you learn to breathe around the edges and love a thing by standing at its ledges. Porcelain sky, too perfect to be real, the kind of morning only dreamers feel. I held my breath so I wouldn't break the spell, too afraid to love you, too afraid to tell. Porcelain sky, so flawless, so divine, the world between your sleeping and the light. I pressed it to my chest like something rare, a porcelain sky, and I was standing there. We made our coffee slow that afternoon, while outside the city found its tune. You read a page, I watched the steam rise up and curled my hands around my borrowed cup. And I thought, this is it, this is the thing that poets break themselves attempting to bring this ordinary sacred fleeting now, this porcelain perfection, this somehow. And I knew even that it wouldn't keep, that perfect things are made to break or sleep. But knowing doesn't stop the wanting, and beauty always wins over the haunting. Porcelain sky, too perfect to be real, the kind of morning only dreamers feel. I held my breath so I wouldn't break the spell, too afraid to love you, like something rare, a porcelain sky. And I was standing there. It broke the way all beautiful things do, not all at once but slowly, starting through a hairline crack along the edge of us, too thin to see but wide enough to rust. And I have kept the pieces ever since, in every place I've been since that first rinse of morning light that fell across your face. No other light has ever filled that space. Porcelain sky, sky. Porcelain still whole somewhere. You never raised your voice at all. You never needed to. I heard it all in the way you paused before you spoke, like every word was something you'd hand chose. You'd sit beside me without sound, and that was where the world slowed down. No rush, no noise, no need to fill the space between us. You were still, and I had never known before that quiet could feel like an open door, that someone could arrive and all the noise would leave, that love could move that gently and still make you believe. You were soft like the moon on water, luminous and still and barely there. Not a storm, not a fire, not a crash, just a light that fell so gently through the air. And I didn't know how much I needed something that didn't ask me to be loud. You were soft like the moon on water, and you made the whole world quiet when you loved me. I used to think that love meant burning things, meant hurricanes and passionate sufferings, the kind of love that wrote itself in scars and letters sent too late in falling stars. But then you handed me a cup of tea and sat across and simply looked at me, and something in my chest unknotted slow, like ice that didn't melt, it just let go. And I had never understood until that gentleness requires the most skill, that choosing soft in a world that shouts and breaks is the bravest, rarest, most beautiful thing it takes. You were soft like the moon on water, luminous and still and barely there. Not a storm, not a fire, not a crash, just a light that fell so gently through the air. And I didn't know how much I needed something that didn't ask me to be loud. You were soft like the moon on water, and you made the whole world quiet when you loved me. That arrived like thunder, splitting open everything you knew. And there are loves that move like moonlight, slow and silver. You were that, you were you. I didn't fall, I settled into you, like a shore that finally found its tide. Not dramatic, not a revelation, just the truest thing I've ever known inside. You were soft like the moon on water, and you showed me what I'd always been afraid to find, that the quietest love is the deepest, that the gentlest hands leave the longest trails behind. And I finally know how much I needed to be loved by something steady, something true. Soft like the moon on water, I have never been more held than I was held by you. city lights had blurred the line between the stars and street lamp glow, between the things we never know. You handed me your jacket sleeve, said the night was getting hard to breathe. I laughed like I've been here before, but nothing felt familiar anymore. And I didn't know your name yet, didn't know the way you'd make me feel. Two worlds colliding in a quiet moment, too soft to touch, too beautiful to be real. Starlit and strangers, we stood at the edge of everything we hadn't said. The universe leaned in to hear us breathe, two people wrapped in the same dream. I didn't know your story, you didn't know mine, but something ancient pulled us into line. Starlit and strangers, maybe that's enough to know a soul before you fall in love. We talked until the rooftop grew cold. You shared the parts you'd never been told, the place you're from, the place you'd run, the things you swore you'd someday become. I watched the stars move slow above, like they were jealous of this ordinary love. How do you find someone like you in 7 billion lives I'm stumbling through? And I still didn't know the ending, didn't know if you would stay or go, but something in the silence kept on saying, this is the beginning of something you should know. Starlit and strangers, we stood at the edge of everything we hadn't said. The universe leaned in to hear us breathe, two people wrapped in the same dream. I didn't know your story, you didn't know mine, but something ancient pulled us into line. Starlit and strangers, maybe that's enough to know a soul before you fall in love. What if the stars arranged this night? What if the dark was just to make us find the light? What if I left an hour before? What if you'd never walked through that door? I don't believe in accidents, I believe in gravity and consequence. And I believe that you were always meant to be the stranger I would never forget. Starlit and strangers, we stood at the edge of everything that's ever mattered. The universe held still to watch us breathe, two hearts unraveling the same dream. I know your scars now, you know mine, and something ancient wove our lives entwined. Starlit and strangers, we began with just enough to know a soul, and then to fall in love. Strangers, starlit strangers. Strangers. The waking world has sorted us apart, put all the careful distance in my heart. I've learned to live beside the missing you, the daylight version reasonable and true. I do not call, I do not write your name. I've built a life that doesn't look the same as anything that holds you, anything that stays. I've gotten very good at waking days, but when the city goes to sleep and the dark gets soft and keeps every promise that the daylight won't allow, you are standing right beside me somehow. I'm still yours in a dream, where the rules of the waking world come apart at the seam, where the distance is nothing, the years fall away, and everything lost finds its way back to stay. In the dream I am brave, I say everything true. In the dream there is no in between, only you and I wake with your name still warm on my lips, still yours, still yours, just in a dream like this. Last night you found me in the kitchen light. We spoke the way we used to, easy, right? You laughed at something, I forget what now, but I remember feeling this is how. This is the shape of us before the end, before the silence learned to comprehend that some things that are broken can't be fixed. Only dream, only dreamed, only wished. And I know when I open my eyes, you'll dissolve at the morning. The dream will rise into nothing but air, and the memory of air, and I'll carry the warmth for you, knowing you weren't there. I'm still yours in a dream, where the rules of the waking world come apart at the seam, where the distance is nothing, the years fall away, and everything lost finds its way back to stay. In the dream I am brave, I say everything true. In the dream there is no in between, only you and I wake with your name still warm on my lips, still yours, still yours, just in a dream like this. Maybe the dream is not the lesser place, maybe it's the only space where love gets to be what it was always meant, without the weight of consequence. Because in the dream I have never lost you, in the dream the ending never came. And maybe the bravest thing I do each evening is close my eyes and find you just the same. True. In the waking I am learning to be two, and I wake with your name still warm on my lips, grateful, still yours, even in a dream like this. Still yours, still dreaming, still. Still. I have loved before, I know the shape, the way it starts, the way it breaks. I've learned the seasons, felt the weight of loving someone just a little bit too late. So when I saw you standing there with your crooked smile and your unheld stare, I told myself, I know this road, I've carried this before, I know this load. But something in my chest said, wait, this doesn't feel like anything I've known. This feels like standing at a door I swear I've never opened, never owned. Could this be the last first time, the one that ends the searching and the climb, that feeling in your hands when you don't know whether this is how it starts or lets you go? The last first flutter, last first fear, the last first time that someone makes it clear that every love before was just a sign leading me to you. The last first time. You talked about the things you're scared to want, the way that hope can turn into a haunt. I said I know, and meant it more than most. I've been that want, I've been that hope, that ghost. But somewhere in your sentences I heard my own heart speaking back in different words. And I thought, what if this is different? What if different is exactly what was missing? Because some the last first time you risk it all. The last first flutter, God, it's here. The last first time I've ever felt this clear. Every love before, every crack, every climb was making me fine. The party lights were fading low. You stood there like a secret no one knows. I held my glass a little tight, too scared to walk across that room tonight. Your laughter caught the candles' glow. I memorized each detail, slow. The way your fingers touched your hair, like you'd forgotten I was there. And the clock kept moving, moving on, and I kept finding reasons to stay long. One more song, one more look, one more maybe. But the night had other plans for us, baby. It was the night we didn't say goodbye. No last word, no reason, no answer why. Just a breath between us, the space, the ache, and 1,000 things my heart forgot to say. You slipped into the dark like a falling star, and I've been reaching ever since for what you are. Oh, I still feel the warmth of that December night, the night we didn't say goodbye. I searched the crowd when you had gone. The music changed, the night moved on. I told myself it wasn't real, that strangers can make someone feel this full. But I still hear your voice somewhere between a dream and midnight air. Like a song I never finished writing, something lost before the igniting. And the world kept spinning, spinning fast, but I kept living in the things that passed. The corner where you stood, the door, the maybe. Why do I still carry this so, baby? It was the night we didn't say goodbye. The last word, no reason, no answer why. Just a breath between us, the space, the ache, and 1,000 things my heart forgot to say. You slipped into the dark like a falling star, and I've been reaching ever since for what you are. Oh, I still feel the warmth of that December night, the night we didn't say goodbye. There is a kind of missing that feels like wealth, like the ache itself is proof of something else. That you were real, that all of it was true, that I was someone who was loved by you. I don't reach for you the way I used to. Don't search for you in every room I move through. But quietly, the way a scar still knows the wound, you are the ache that lives inside the room. And I have learned that sweetness is a gift, the kind that only heartbreak gives. The proof that something beautiful was here, written in the missing, written in the tears. This is the sweetest kind of ache, the one that lives long after the goodbye. Not the hollow kind, not the empty kind, the kind that's full of everything we had inside. This is the sweetest kind of ache, the missing that means something worth the pain. I would not trade this beautiful, this aching, for a heart that never learned to love this way. I think of you in ordinary moments, when the light falls just the way it used to fall. When a song comes on I didn't know could hurt me, or someone laughs the way you used to call. And instead of looking down, I look up now. Let the feeling wash completely, take a bow. Because a love like yours deserves to be remembered with everything I have and everything I vow. And I have learned the ache is not the enemy, it is the love still living still in me. The proof that I was here, that I was changed, that someone found me and rearranged. This is the sweetest kind of ache, the one that lives long after the goodbye. And not the hollow kind, not the empty kind, the kind that's full of everything we had inside. This is the sweetest kind of ache, the missing that means something worth the pain. I would not trade this beautiful, this aching, for a heart that never learned to love this way. Every song I've ever sung about you, every night I stayed awake to find the words. Almost every echo, every moonlight, every champagne light, and every dream deferred. Every porcelain morning, every velvet midnight, every candle, every star, every December, every season that arrived and changed me was the sweetest, sweetest ache to remember. This is the sweetest kind of ache, and I am grateful for every single break, every crack that let the beauty in, every ending that became a new beginning. The sweetest kind of ache, the proof that I have loved and love remains. And if this is the last song that I offer, then let it be the sweetest kind of ache. The sweetest kind of ache. fell asleep before we did, and all its noise went somewhere else to live. We had the dark and all its living weight, the kind that only comes in hours late. You poured the last of something I don't know. We drank it slow the way the good things go, and all the edges of the world went soft, like velvet pulled across a sky loft. There's a kind of night that doesn't ask you anything, just wraps itself around your shoulders, breathes, and all the things you carry in the daylight fall like leaves, fall like leaves, fall like leaves. Velvet midnight, lush and close and real, the kind of dark that teaches you to feel. Not the cold kind, not the empty kind, the kind that wraps around two people in and fine. Velvet midnight, you beside me there, your voice the only thing that broke the air. I have lived inside 100 kinds of night, but only velvet midnight felt this right. You spoke in half sentences I understood, the language of the late night understood, where words lose all their edges, become warm, where honesty arrives without the storm. You told me something you had held for years, and I received it, I held back no tears, because the velvet dark allows for this, the bearing of the things we'd never risk. They're the kind of truth that only lives at midnight, that the daylight is too harsh and bright to hold, and we were made of it just for that evening. Two people finally warm, finally born. Velvet midnight, lush and close and real, the kind of dark that teaches you to feel. Not the cold kind, not the empty kind, the kind that wraps around two people in and fine. Velvet midnight, you beside me there, your voice the only thing that broke the air. I have lived inside 100 kinds of night, but only velvet midnight felt this right. I think the dark has gotten a bad name, accused of all the things it didn't claim, but velvet dark is where the true things live, where we become the most that we can give. No performance, no pretending, no disguise, just the slow and honest opening of eyes. And you were the reason I believed that midnight could be something to receive. I still feel it now, the weight of all that dark. I don't know how, and I can leave its fabric on your skin and change the shape of everything within. Velvet midnight, you beside me still, in every late night hour the memory fills. I have lived inside 100 kinds of night, but velvet midnight, you were worth the light. Velvet midnight, still wearing you. Velvet midnight, still dark. Velvet midnight, velvet midnight, the power went out somewhere after 9. You found the candles, I poured the wine, and suddenly the whole apartment changed. Everything familiar rearranged. The shadows made the ceiling something new. The walls leaned in a little, so did you. And I thought, this is what we're like when all the noise is gone and it's just candlelight. And the flame kept moving, catching every word, every laugh and every quiet thing we heard. Like the light already knew that the best part of the evening would be you. You are warm like candlelight, flickering but faithful through the night. Not a spotlight, not a stadium glow, just enough to see the parts that matter most. You are warm like candlelight, the kind that makes a home of anywhere. I have stood inside 1,000 kinds of lights, but none of them have ever felt like you, candlelight. You tell your stories like you're not performing, just opening a door and letting me walk through. No filter and no edges, nothing guarded, just the warmth of being trusted to be true. I watched the wax run slow along the table and thought of all the lives I've lived in cold. The ones where I was bright but never warming, the ones where I had light but still felt old. And something in the quiet of that evening said, this is what you've been searching for. Not the brightest light in every room, but the one that keeps on burning at the door. You are warm like candlelight, flickering but faithful through the night. Not a spotlight, not a stadium glow, just enough to see the parts that matter most. You are warm like candlelight, the kind that makes a home of anywhere. I have stood inside 1,000 kinds of lights, but none of them have ever felt like you, candlelight. Some people arrive like weather, sudden and enormous and then gone. And some arrive like a candle in November, small enough to carry and strong. You don't demand the darkness honor you, you just burn and the darkness moves. That is the rarest thing I've ever witnessed, a light that doesn't need the world to prove. You are warm like candlelight, and I have finally learned to trust the glow. Not everything that's beautiful burns fast, some flames are built to last, to last, to last. You are warm like candlelight, and I am finally warm for the first time right. I have stood inside 1,000 kinds of cold, but you are the light that makes me whole. Still burning, still here. You came in like September comes after the long heat, sudden and welcome. That first cool breath that makes you stop and remember what it felt like before the drop. You brought the color back to everything, the gold, the rust, the amber offering. And I didn't think to ask how long, because September never thinks about the cold to come. And the days grew shorter, I didn't notice, too busy living in the light you made, until the morning came with frost upon the window. And I reached for you and found the cold instead. You were a season, not a lifetime, and seasons don't apologize for leaving. You were the golden and the turning, the most alive I've ever felt, the most believing. You were a season, brilliant and complete, the kind that changes everything it meets. And I would choose you every September, every year, even knowing you'd disappear. They say that autumn is the dying season, but I have never found that to be true. It's the season that burns brightest before the sleeping, the most spectacular in everything it does. And that was you, incandescent, leaving every color at its peak before the gray. You didn't fade, you blazed your way to winter and left the world more beautiful than the day. Through the bare and through the cold and through the still, but every autumn when the gold comes back to everything, I feel you in the color and I always will. You were a season, not a lifetime, and seasons don't apologize for leaving. You were the golden and the turning, the most alive I've ever felt, the most believing. You were a season, brilliant and complete, the kind that changes everything it needs. And I would choose you every September, every year, even knowing you'd disappear. Not everything that's beautiful was built to stay. Some things are out to change you, then to make way for the version of yourself you couldn't find before the season came and left you redefined. You were the turning point, the amber watershed, the love that taught my heart what love said. And every tree that's ever burned in autumn gold is the most alive it's ever been before the cold. You were a season, and I am grateful that the world still turns, and you were part of mine. You were the golden, you were the turning, the most extraordinary, ordinary time. You were a season, brilliant, complete, and gone, but every year the autumn carries on. And I step into the gold and feel you near. My favorite season, always, every year. You were a season, my favorite, still gold.